Rock music in Japan during the 1960s was heavily influenced by many American and British bands, particularly the Beatles, the Ventures, and the Animals. In Japan, this genre of music was known as group sounds. The origin of this term came from an episode of Yuzo Kayama's TV show. Jackie Yoshikawa and the Blue Comets were guests on the show, and they were teased for their mispronunciation of rock and roll as lock and lore, due to confusion over the two L's and R's in the name. Yoshikawa asked Kayama to come up with a term that would be easier for Japanese people to pronounce, and he suggested the term group sounds. This new term was picked up in the media almost immediately. Group sounds were in many ways imitations of the psychedelic music of the West in terms of style, political movement, and even movie production. While the Beatles had silly music-oriented movies with little plot, such as Help and Yellow Submarine, the same practice could be seen with Japanese films such as the Spiders' Wild Scheme of Go-Go and the Jaguars' Hey You Go. However, one area where Japanese rock bands would differ from their Western counterparts was on their stance on drug usage. While many American and British bands of the 60s were infamous for their drug use, the majority of Japanese performers were either drug-free or even strongly against drugs. In the 1980s, Visual Kei, or Visual Kei, was taking off in Japan. While there's a certain level to the musical component of it, Visual Kei is much more defined by its appearance rather than sound, similar to glam rock, hair metal, and the goth movement in the West. Visual Kei is characterized by band members having excessive makeup, unusual hairstyles and colors, and bizarre costumes. The band X Japan was one of the leaders in bringing Visual Kei to the mainstream. The term was used to describe the band's slogan, psychedelic violence, crime, or visual shock. Today, independent rock is becoming more popular in Japan. The music industry that was previously dominated by major labels is being challenged by quirky indie groups with unique sounds. Many of these bands have received international success, and bands like Buffalo Daughter and Chibo Matto have brought more popularity to all-girl bands. Many subgenres of rock have been brought in modern times, one of which is known as Shibuya sounds, named after a district in Tokyo. This genre is known as modern club pop and features bands such as Cornelius, Tawate, and Pizzicato 5. Of these, Cornelius has received the most success, particularly in the US. One of the more bizarre genres is noise rock, or Japanoise. Japanoise is characterized by being completely free from any and all rules of musical theory. The music playing in the background is an example of this. It is often highly improvisational and sometimes features psychedelic or electronic elements. As opposed to other genres, Japanoise is often considered to be less serious and is more focused on being as loud or as ridiculous as possible.